My fiance spent 3 months convincing me that an open relationship would make us stronger. Then I slept with another man, once. A week later, after the woman my fiance wanted stopped seeing him, he told me to end my other relationship or cancel our wedding. Now he says he made a mistake and deserves another chance. But I can't stop wondering whether he regrets opening the relationship or only regrets that I benefited from it too. My name is Claire. I'm 29 and I've been with Ryan for almost 5 years. We got engaged last summer and our wedding was 6 months away. We had already paid deposits for the venue, photographer, and catering. Our families had started booking flights and hotels. Before this happened, I genuinely believed Ryan and I had a strong relationship. Not perfect, but stable. We lived together, shared expenses, knew each other's families, and had spent years building a life together. I wasn't questioning whether Ryan loved me. I was worried about seating arrangements, expensive flowers, and whether his mother would invite 20 extra relatives without telling us. Then, one night, while we were getting ready for bed, Ryan said he wanted to discuss something important. He told me he had been reading about ethical non-monogamy. According to him, couples in open relationships were often more honest because they didn't pretend attraction to other people disappeared after commitment. At first, I assumed he was discussing an article. Then he said, I think we should consider opening our relationship before we get married. I laughed, not because it was funny, because I honestly thought he couldn't be serious. We're getting married in 6 months. Exactly, he said. We should decide what kind of relationship we want before the wedding, not after. I stared at him. Do you want to sleep with other women? Ryan said that wasn't the point. He said he wanted both of us to have the freedom to explore physical connections without lying, hiding messages, or destroying our relationship over something that didn't have to mean anything emotionally. I asked whether there was already someone else. He answered no, very quickly. I asked again, a specific woman, Ryan, is there someone you already want? No. But over the next few days, one name kept appearing. Madison. She worked with Ryan. She was recently divorced, confident, funny, and apparently very open about not believing in traditional relationships. Ryan had mentioned her before, but after his proposal, I started noticing how often he brought her up. Madison had recommended one of the podcasts he sent me. Madison had explained how jealousy could be managed. Madison had told him monogamous couples often confused possession with love. Ryan insisted she had nothing to do with his proposal. He said talking to her had only helped him realize that open relationships could work. To me, that sounded like a carefully edited confession. I told him I wasn't interested. Ryan said he understood. For about 2 weeks. Then he brought it up again. This time he sent me articles, then videos, then interviews with relationship counselors. Every conversation ended with him saying, I would never pressure you into anything. But he kept asking, at dinner, in the car, while we were watching television. Even while we were planning the wedding, he would say, I just want us to build a relationship that works for us. Or, I don't want us to wake up at 40 and realize we denied ourselves experiences because we were afraid. Whenever I said I was happy with monogamy, he acted as if I hadn't fully understood his argument. Eventually, I asked what would happen if I said no permanently. He went quiet. Then he said, I would accept it, but I'd probably always wonder whether you really understood me. That frightened me more than a direct ultimatum. He wasn't threatening to leave. He was telling me that if I refused, some part of him would enter our marriage feeling trapped. I loved him. We had spent almost 5 years building a life together. Our families were preparing for the wedding, and I didn't want to become the insecure fiancé who destroyed everything because she couldn't handle one uncomfortable idea. So I agreed to discuss rules. Ryan looked relieved, not surprised, relieved. That told me he had always expected me to give in eventually. We spent several nights negotiating. No coworkers, no close friends, no bringing anyone into our apartment, no overnight stays, protection every time. No canceling plans with each other for a date, no hiding messages, no emotional relationships, and neither person could end the arrangement unilaterally. If one of us became uncomfortable, we would talk about it and decide together what needed to change. Then I added one final rule. Whatever freedom you have, I have too. Ryan almost looked offended. Obviously. We agreed to wait 1 month before either of us acted. Ryan said the waiting period would prove this wasn't about anyone specific. 3 days after the month ended, he told me Madison wanted to go out with him. I reminded him that coworkers were off limits. Ryan said Madison had accepted another job and would be leaving the company in 2 weeks. So after she leaves, she won't be my coworker. I looked at him. You've already discussed this with her? He hesitated. Then he admitted that Madison knew we were considering opening our relationship. That was when I understood what had really happened. Maybe they hadn't slept together, maybe they hadn't kissed. But Ryan had not suddenly discovered a deep belief in non-monogamy. He wanted Madison. He just wanted permission before acting on it. I should have ended the engagement then. Instead, I became stubborn. I told myself that if Ryan wanted this arrangement so badly, he could live with all of it, not only the part that benefited him. So I agreed that he could go out with Madison after she officially left the company. His first date with her was on a Friday. Ryan bought a new shirt. He got a haircut that afternoon. He wore the cologne I had given him for our anniversary. He spent more time preparing for that date than he had spent preparing for any date with me in years. Before leaving, he kissed me and asked, "Are you sure you're okay?" I said yes. That was a lie. I spent the evening cleaning an already clean apartment. I checked the time constantly. Every sound in the hallway made me think he had returned. He came home shortly after midnight. Our rules said neither person had to share intimate details unless the other asked. I didn't ask. Ryan walked directly into the bathroom and took a shower. That told me enough. The next morning, he made breakfast. He was unusually affectionate. He kept touching my shoulder, kissing my forehead, and telling me he loved me. I think he expected me to fall apart, and I almost did, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of acting like I couldn't handle the arrangement he had spent months describing as mature and healthy. Ryan continued seeing Madison once a week. After their second date, he told me they had slept together. I thanked him for being honest. Then I went into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and cried where he couldn't hear me. I hated the arrangement, but I had agreed to it, and technically Ryan followed most of our rules. He didn't bring Madison home, he didn't spend the night, he didn't cancel plans with me. But something between us changed. He checked his phone more often. He smiled at messages and placed the screen face down. When I asked whether they were becoming emotionally involved, he said no, they're just messages. I reminded him that emotional relationships were against our agreement. Ryan told me I was looking for reasons to be upset. For the first 2 months, I didn't date anyone. Ryan encouraged me to try. At least he said he did. He helped me choose photographs for a dating profile and joked that I would probably get more matches than he did. I think he believed that made him supportive, but I also think he believed I would never actually meet anyone. For a while, he was right. Most of the messages made me uncomfortable. Some men were too aggressive. Others treated me like a fantasy because I was engaged. A few clearly hoped I was secretly cheating and wanted to participate in the deception. I deleted the app twice. Then I matched with Evan. He was 31, recently single, and worked in graphic design. His profile was simple, no shirtless photographs, no expensive car he probably didn't own, no list of demands disguised as preferences. He just seemed normal. We exchanged messages for about a week. I told him immediately that I was engaged and that Ryan and I had mutually agreed to an open relationship. Evan asked thoughtful questions. He didn't make jokes about joining us. He didn't act as if Ryan was an obstacle he needed to defeat. He simply said, "I'm not interested in helping anyone cheat, but if the arrangement is genuinely mutual, I'm open to meeting." I showed Ryan our conversation. He read Evan's profile and shrugged. "Go have fun." So I did. Evan and I met for coffee on a Sunday afternoon. I expected it to be awkward. It wasn't. We talked for almost 3 hours. He asked about my job, my family, and the books I liked. He remembered small details from our messages. He didn't spend the entire date trying to impress me. When I returned home, Ryan was sitting on the couch. "How did it go?" "Good." "How good?" "We're going to see each other again." His expression changed for less than a second. Then he smiled. "That's great. I'm happy for you." Our second date was dinner. Our third was at a small art exhibit Evan wanted to see. Afterward, he kissed me. When I got home, I told Ryan. He became quiet. "You kissed him?" "Yes. I didn't realize you were already at that stage." I stared at him. "You slept with Madison after your second date. That's different." "How?" "I already knew Madison." That makes it more emotional, not less. Ryan said he wasn't angry, he was only surprised. Then he asked whether Evan was better looking than him. I refused to answer. Over the next few weeks, Ryan started asking more questions. Where were we going? How long would I be gone? What was I wearing? Did Evan know about the wedding? Had we discussed feelings? Was he trying to convince me to leave? The questions were strange because Ryan had demanded privacy whenever I asked similar things about Madison. When I pointed that out, he said our situations were different. Again, the truth was that my situation with Evan was becoming different. On our fourth date, he asked me, "Are you sure you still want to marry someone who had to pressure you into this?" I immediately told him that question crossed a line. My relationship with Ryan was not his decision. Evan apologized, but I didn't end the date, and I didn't tell Ryan exactly what Evan asked. I told myself I was avoiding unnecessary conflict, but the truth was more uncomfortable. Part of me liked that Evan questioned whether Ryan deserved me. Part of me liked being around someone who listened when I said no the first time. I was beginning to look forward to Evan's messages. I checked my phone more often. I thought about things I wanted to tell him. I knew that was moving dangerously close to the emotional boundary Ryan and I had established. But Ryan had spent months dismissing my concerns about Madison. So I convinced myself that I didn't owe him more honesty than he had given me. Then, one evening, Ryan came home early and found me getting ready for another date. I was wearing a dark green dress he had never seen before. He stood in the bedroom doorway and watched me apply makeup. "You look different." "I bought a dress." "You don't dress like that when we go out." That wasn't completely fair, but it wasn't completely wrong either. Ryan and I had become comfortable. Our dates were usually familiar restaurants, takeout, or nights on the couch. With Evan, everything still felt new. I made more effort because I was nervous. Ryan noticed. "You're trying harder for him than you do for me." I put down my makeup. "You bought new clothes before your first date with Madison. That was different." "You keep saying that's different, but you never explain why." Ryan asked me to cancel. I reminded him that our agreement said we couldn't interfere with each other's dates simply because we felt jealous. He said he wasn't jealous, he was uncomfortable. I told him discomfort was something he had repeatedly said we needed to communicate through. Then I left. That night, Evan and I slept together. I returned home before midnight exactly as Ryan and I had agreed. Ryan was awake. The moment I walked through the door, he asked, "Did you sleep with him?" I didn't want to answer, but honesty was part of our arrangement. "Yes." Ryan stood up and walked into the kitchen. For several minutes, he said nothing. Then he asked whether I had enjoyed it. I told him that question wasn't healthy or useful. He laughed bitterly. "That means yes." I asked whether he had enjoyed sleeping with Madison. He said that wasn't the point. "It is exactly the point." "No, it isn't. You and Evan are becoming something. We've been on 4 dates. You light up when he texts you. You smile when Madison texts. But I'm still here with you. So am I." Ryan said he needed time to process everything. I almost repeated the phrases he had used on me. Jealousy is insecurity. Discomfort is growth. Monogamy is social conditioning. But I didn't. I wasn't enjoying his pain. Seeing him hurt didn't make me feel powerful. It made me angry because I had spent months forcing myself to tolerate the exact feelings he was now treating like an emergency. For the next week, Ryan barely spoke to me. He canceled a date with Madison. Then he began criticizing Evan. He said Evan was taking advantage of our relationship. He said no decent man would date an engaged woman. I asked what that made Madison. Ryan didn't answer. A few days later, he told me he wanted to close the relationship immediately. No more dates, no more messages, no gradual ending. Madison and Evan would both be gone. I stared at him. "You wanted this. I know. You spent 3 months convincing me. And I was wrong." Ryan said watching me become close to Evan had made him realize how much damage we were doing. He said people were allowed to change their minds. And he was right. Then I asked, "Did Madison end things with you?" Ryan looked away. That was my answer. Eventually, he admitted that Madison had started dating someone else more seriously and no longer wanted to continue seeing him. So Ryan's outside relationship was already over. Mine wasn't. I asked whether he would still be demanding monogamy if Madison had wanted to keep seeing him. He said that was unfair. I told him it was the only question that mattered. Ryan insisted this wasn't about Madison rejecting him. He said losing her had forced him to step back and see the situation clearly. I asked why he hadn't seen it clearly while I was crying in the shower after his dates. He said, I didn't understand what it would feel like. Neither did I. But now we do. No, now you do. Ryan told me that if I truly wanted to repair our relationship, ending things with Evan should not be difficult. I asked, if you truly loved me, why did you spend months pressuring me into this? He said he had never pressured me. Maybe he never threatened me, maybe he never physically forced me, but he kept asking until saying no felt like refusing to understand the man I planned to marry. And now he was doing the same thing in reverse. Ryan wanted an answer that night. I told him I needed time. He said there was nothing to think about. We're getting married, Claire. Evan is temporary. What we have is supposed to come first. I reminded him that he had spent months telling me physical relationships with other people couldn't threaten what we had. He said he had been naive. Then he told me, I can't marry you while you're still seeing him. End it or the wedding is off. 6 months earlier, I would have done anything to protect our engagement, but now I wasn't sure what I was protecting. Was Ryan genuinely admitting that he had made a terrible mistake? Or did he only want monogamy again because the open relationship had stopped benefiting him? And I wasn't completely innocent. I knew Ryan was becoming uncomfortable. I continued seeing Evan anyway. I knew Evan had started questioning my relationship. I knew I was developing feelings that crossed the rules Ryan and I had created. And I didn't tell Ryan the full truth. Part of me genuinely liked Evan, but another part of me wanted Ryan to experience the same insecurity, jealousy, and helplessness I had endured. Maybe I wasn't only exploring. Maybe I was proving a point. Maybe somewhere along the way I stopped trying to save our relationship and started trying to punish him inside it. Ryan says he admitted he was wrong and deserves the opportunity to repair what he damaged before we get married. He believes refusing to end things with Evan means I care more about another man than our future. I believe Ryan only supported an open relationship when he imagined himself as the person with more options. But maybe once he finally admitted the arrangement was destroying us, I should have agreed to close it. So tell me honestly, was Ryan wrong for demanding monogamy only after Madison rejected him? Or once he admitted the open relationship was a mistake, did I owe our engagement a real chance to recover? And if I kept seeing Evan partly because I wanted Ryan to suffer, did I become just as manipulative as he was? Drop your verdict in the comments and subscribe because here, one story always leads to another.